Film making more trading stocks, family full of shooting stars, where we push it to the top. Kids yet, but I'm planning for a mini me. Should've started earlier. Advice to the young me.
100 past go, life is a monopoly. Going wherever my own, no way you stopping me. The lifestyle you wanna live in, get a huddle and then bring off the lake. And get it down the struggle. It's a plan of myself, so when that back come, I won't fumble. I'm stacking on the low, but I'm tired of being humble, boy. Let's get to it, man. Let's do it. Your life don't let nobody else do it. Let's do it, man. Yes, sir. Let's do it.
Now tuned into the greatest.
The Run with Manny Wilson podcast.
The best sports podcast there is.
Yes, sir. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Run with me, Manny Wilson, all the way from Detroit to Chicago to your speakers and headphones, and you're listening to the best sports podcast there is. Now, look, man, hey, we got some predictions for you here today. That's all that's in this episode, so it's not going to be too much longer. So, hey, I'm done. I'm not even going to talk about anything else. Let's just cut straight to the chase from week 6, but let's preview week 5, because week 5, we set our record of 11-5 with our predictions. This is the best record so far we have in the season. But you know we always striving for better and more. So we're going to beat this record. I don't know if it'll be week 6 because there's a couple of weird looking matchups here, but we definitely going to top this record at some point. We're going to beat this record of 11-5. Maybe it will be week 6. Who knows? Let's jump into it though. Let's do it. Let's set the mood right. And let's get off with these predictions. Let's do it. All right, so for Thursday night football, man, we got the Commanders in Chicago playing the Bears. Now, I picked the Bears to win this matchup. Even though the Commanders are trying to break a 4-game losing streak, they still have losses against decent teams and all of that stuff. I get it. But they're not going to beat the Bears in Chicago, mainly because the Bears have not lost in Chicago so far this season. And they almost had another win last week against the Vikings, but the Vikings literally snatched it away from him at the end of the game. Literally just took the ball right out of his hands and won the game. So, I mean, hey, I think the Bears are definitely going to get a good bounce back win. And it's for the Commanders. They'll probably make it competitive. But, you know, they say when they play at Soldier Field, sometimes people tense up. They don't like the cold weather and none of that. But, hey, I don't know. I mean, this team is in Washington, so it's not too far going. But I'm picking the Bears to walk away with the dub in Chicago. All right, let's move on to the 49ers and the Falcons. The 49ers and the Atlanta Falcons. You know, my team, I would love to go for the Falcons, but unfortunately, we're just not going to beat this top-tier defense from the 49ers. They're absolutely amazing. They've been playing good. They looked pretty good last week as well. They're number 1 in sacks. They're number 1 in defense. This team is going to be tough to beat here. And from the Atlanta Falcons, true be told, we're just a little too inconsistent right now, offensively and defensively, to beat this team. So I hate to do it, but I'm going with the 49ers to win this ball game here against the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta, unfortunately. All right, so the Patriots and the Browns are coming up next. Now, here I have the Browns taking this win. The Browns are going to win, even though the Patriots skunked the Lions last week. Not going to let y'all Lions fans forget about that. The Browns, I think they're going to probably be forced to pass the ball because they are top 5 in rushing right now. Number 1, to be exact, number 1 in rushing. And the Patriots are definitely aware of that. So I think they're going to make sure they try and let Brissett win the game for them by passing the ball downfield to get the ball downfield. And I believe in Brissett. I think he can actually do something like that. So I think it's going to happen. And I'm picking the Browns to win this ball game here in Cleveland. So I'm going with the Browns to win this game here. All right, let's move on. Let's go to the Jets and the Packers. Now, the Packers, they took a disappointing loss last week against the Giants. It was a huge turn of events. A lot of people started thinking about taking the Giants seriously and stuff now. I personally I'm not sure if I want to take the Giants serious at this point. It's still very early in the season. Of course, it's only week 6, but it's getting there more and more. If they win this week, and I'll get to who they play and all of that. Long story short, we're going with the Packers. Packers are going to beat the Jets. it'll be a good game. Zach Wilson is back with the Jets. Jets just came off a huge momentum win against the Dolphins, despite them not really having a quarterback to play. But ultimately, I have the Packers winning this game. It's going to be a great bounce back win for Aaron Rodgers. And they are at home in Green Bay. So they're not going to lose this matchup. Now let's go to the Jaguars and the Colts, and then we'll take a quick break because this is an easy one here. We're going with the Jaguars. The Colts have been very disappointing this season. They did pull off a win. An upset. Who's that over? Was it last week the upset that they won? It was over one of those teams, right? I can't remember the team, but they did pull off an exciting win, but they're still just a bad football team. I really don't believe in the Colts, and the Jaguars have been playing fairly good. I like what I've been seeing from Trevor Lawrence, at least, if not the whole entire team. Trevor Lawrence has definitely proved that he can control this offense, take this offense downfield, score the ball, and control the offense and make plays. So I'm going with the Jaguars to win this ball game here in week 6. All right, and we'll take a quick break. We'll jump right back into the predictions. So stay tuned, hang tight, and we will be right back. Now, you know, just because you're busy doesn't mean you got to be stressed. I'm crazy busy right there with you, but it can be easier. Next time you're on a run, just make it more fun and listen to The Run with Manny Wilson. It's The Run with Manny Wilson podcast. Let's do it. All right, continuing on with the predictions that we have here. We have the Minnesota Vikings and the Miami Dolphins. Now, here's where the matchups start to get good on NFL Sunday. The second half of the day, I don't remember if this was an early game or afternoon game, but at this break where we just took, this is where the games start to get really good. Vikings and the Dolphins, I'm picking the Vikings to win. Now, however, I do believe the Dolphins will make this a great matchup, and they can make this still an entertaining game and possibly sneak one out against the Vikings. Because yes, they may not have Tua. Yes, they may not have Teddy Bridgewater, but Skylar Thompson is a new quarterback. We're going to see what he's capable of, and he has plenty of weapons to help establish himself as a dominant quarterback, or at least an okay quarterback, or just a quarterback that proves he belongs in the NFL. So I wouldn't be too surprised if the Dolphins did end up making this a close game or making this a game. They just got to find a way to get those guys, those skill guys, and those explosive guys the ball in open space. And from there, it's going to be golden. But until I see it and it's proven to me that Skylar Thompson is that guy to be able to help this offense until Bridgewater or Tua gets back, I'm going with the Vikings to take this game here. And I think they're going to win and steal this win out in Minnesota or in Miami. So it's going to be a great matchup. Vikings win over Miami. Now, the Bengals and the Saints. This is a matchup that's going to be easy for me to choose because I'm picking the Bengals. They lost last week against the Ravens, so they're definitely looking for a bounce back win. And what better team to do that against the Saints? They've been wishy-washy. They've been up and down, very inconsistent on both ends of the ball. And I think the Bengals are definitely coming in with something to prove because it was a great matchup against the Ravens. They just so happened to lose the game in the closing minutes of that game. So I think the Bengals are going to step it up and pull off a win in week 6 against the Saints. Now, the Ravens and the Giants here. The Giants, they've been great at home so far. But I'm hoping to see a good game. However, I do have the Ravens pulling this off. I don't think the Ravens are going to lose. But the Giants, again, it's going to be a great matchup. But I just think the Ravens are going to pull it off. And it's really just as simple as that. The Giants, they have a great run game. I like that weird formation that they do. I talked about it last week more in depth of the 2 tight ends, throwing pass and all of that stuff. But I still think the Ravens are going to get this matchup, but it's going to be a good game. You'd be a fool to think the Ravens are just going to come in New York and just spank the Giants all around. I would be very surprised if that happened in this game. Now, the Buccaneers and the Steelers. Easy vote right here. The Buccaneers are going to win this ball game. Regardless of how good the Steelers defense is, they're not going to outscore Tom Brady. They're not going to be able to shut Tom Brady down completely. And even if they did, which I highly doubt, they still have to score the ball downfield. And that's just not going to happen. The offense have not looked great. And I don't really think there's anything they can do outside of, hey, claiming this is just not our year to be great. So I think that's ultimately going to be the case here. But I'm going with the Buccaneers to win this ball game. Now, the Panthers and the Rams. Both teams are coming off an L last week. Panthers lost, the Rams lost. Rams, they're going to win this Sunday. It's as simple as that. The Rams are going to win this Sunday. They can't lose another game at home. They got embarrassed last week by the Cowboys at home, and they've already been losing at home. So they can't lose another game at home. I think this is going to be the perfect bounce back opportunity for them. The Panthers, I think I read some reports. I did read a few reports that they were talking about benching Baker Mayfield, and this has been overdue. At this point, it needs to happen. Sam Darnold needs to come in. Something needs to happen. Some type of adjustments needs to go down because you can't keep losing the same way you've been losing over the past few weeks. If you're going to lose, you got to go out swinging. You got to go out by trying something new. And if they don't try anything new, or even if they do, I still think the Rams are going to win this ball game here. Now, let's move on. Let's move on to the Cardinals and the Seahawks here. The Seahawks will be playing at home of the 12th man. It's going to be a tough matchup, but the Cardinals are going to pull this win off. Now, they're still shaky on offense and defense, but I've seen more from them as the season has gone on. And Seahawks, they're definitely going to make it some sort of game just because they are at home. But when it comes down to the wire and when it comes down to can you score the ball over this defense and can you stop this defense, I think the Cardinals are going to go ahead and do it. They looked pretty good against the Ravens last week against the Eagles last week from what I've seen, and they almost pulled out that victory. So I know they're going to be coming in hungry, trying to steal another victory on the road. So I'm going with the Cardinals to win this ball game over the Seahawks. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The Bills and the Chiefs are playing each other. Every time we've witnessed these two teams, we've seen great football. Great football. But however, I'm going with the underdogs. I don't know if they're distinct underdogs or not, like when you talk about betting and all of that, but I'm going with the Buffalo Bills to win this ball game here. Just for the fact, these are two powerhouses, both powerhouses in their division, both powerhouses in this AFC conference. And it's no clear-cut winner here because both teams are obviously great and talented. But when I look at who's making less mistakes and what offense and defense looks more free-flowing, looks more consistent, I'm seeing the Bills come out on top. The Chiefs, they've been playing good. Don't get me wrong, but I've seen much more mistakes from the Chiefs against lower level teams, against evenly matched teams, and teams who are coming to just show them that, hey, we're here. You have to actually play to beat us. I've seen the Chiefs make more mistakes. From the Bills, they make mistakes. Obviously, everybody does when they play this game, but their offense has looked way more consistent than the Chiefs. And it's clear so far up to week 6 that the Chiefs are not the same Kansas City Chiefs that we've seen over the last few years. Not saying they're a bad team, not saying they fell off, none of that. They're still a great team. They're just not as consistent. They don't look as fluent as they did over these last few years, which is why I'm going with the Buffalo Bills to win this ball game here. And Buffalo Bills, they're going to win this game because it's ultimately going to come down to whichever team can make the least amount of mistakes is going to win the game. And that team is going to be the Bills. It's going to be the Bills. All right, let's move on to another powerhouse matchup here with the Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles. The Cowboys and the Eagles matchup is huge. It's difficult to go against the Eagles at home and win. They're already 5-0, and even if they weren't 5-0, I still believe that it would be tough to beat the Eagles in Philadelphia. And then when you talk about the things that they have to overcome, you're overcoming a top 5 defense, a number 2 offense, a top 5 rushing team, a top 5 team in sacks, a top 5 team in turnovers. Like, this team is loaded from top to bottom, and they've been playing like it. Now, last week they looked a little shaky. They looked a little weary at times because it was a close game there. But ultimately, it's going to come down to if the Cowboys defensive line can really rattle Jalen Hurts. If they rattle Jalen Hurts at all, now we're going to be looking at a different type of matchup. We may be seeing something that gives the Eagles a tough time and puts the Cowboys in a better perspective, a better situation to win this ball game. But if that's not the case, it's going to be just tough to outscore and score on this Eagles defense. But with Eagles being at home, I think either way with this matchup here, I would take the home team. And I don't really see the Eagles going 6-0, but damn it, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I got the Eagles going 6-0 in week 6 over the Dallas Cowboys. That's going to give Cooper Rush his first loss because Dak is still not playing. And this is going to be a hell of a matchup here, but we're going Philadelphia Eagles. And then for Monday Night Football, the last game here, we have the Broncos and the Chargers. And I'm almost 100% sure the Chargers are going to win this game and the Broncos are going to just give it away as they've been doing over the last few weeks here. I think the Broncos, they need to make changes, obviously, in the coaching staff and just whatever, man, because they have not been playing great. They've been playing very bad over these last few weeks, and I think it's going to catch up to them in week 6 because the Chargers are going to take this win. But anyway, that's all we have for you today. I greatly appreciate you sticking with me. If you hung around, listen to all the predictions, make sure you send this to a friend. Make sure you send this to a family member, a cousin, a brother, an uncle, a coworker, anybody you know, especially if I talked about their team and said their team was going to give an L. You got to just be a troll sometimes. You know, sometimes you send it to them and say, hey, your team is going to lose. This guy said it. So, hey, be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Run Podcast. Also follow my personal page as well at I am Manny Wilson. And hey, man, we will be back later on next week and so on and so on and so on.